May we be seated? The Secretary will read the order of the day.
Debate on vote number 33, Rural Development and Land Reform Appropriation Bill.
Honorable the Minister. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members of the House. And Honorable Chair, I took a wrong speech initially, so I hope it's not a bad omen. Honorable Chair, we have distributed or about to distribute the speech. It's a detailed speech. I just want to highlight the areas which we'll be dealing with in the policy speech. We will cover the fundamental policy platform of the governing party, the African National Congress, the Freedom Charter, which is the ideological platform of the ANC of the governing party, as well as the Ready to Govern document, which is a socio-economic framework for ANC policy. Informed by this socio-economic framework, the ANC developed its economic policy, the mixed economy, premised on the spirit, if not also the letter, of the Freedom Charter. So the ANC's 53rd National Conference confirmed what had been resolved on by the 52nd National Conference on Rural Development, Agrarian Change, and Land Reform. Furthermore, we will cover in this speech, we cover the National Development Plan, which was adopted at that conference, the 53rd Conference of the African National Congress, as a country vision, Vision 2030. And the Comprehensive Rural Development Program will deal with that. We deal with that in the speech, which had been adopted by Cabinet in 2009. It is based on the Ready to Govern document and incorporates provisions of the National Development Plan on rural development and land reform. Now, this is, of course, contrary to what's being said generally, that we've ignored the National Development Plan. The strategy of the department is agrarian transformation, which means rapid and fundamental change in the relations, which means systems and patterns of ownership and control of land, livestock, cropping, and community. This is the strategy of the department. Radical change must bring real benefits to working people and the poor across South Africa. So the National Development Plan provides a long-term vision for accelerating development so that unemployment and inequality could be reduced, creating a more inclusive society. So the National Development Plan is the roadmap of our government and departments in terms of programs, and its Chapter 6 sets out the trajectory of rural economic transformation and development. It sets out a proposed model to make land reform, etc., including district land committees, which should be representative of all stakeholders. I hope that, Honorable Chair, that when I speak about stakeholders here, you can see the gallery is full. These are stakeholders of the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. His Excellency, the President of the Republic, during both State of the Nation addresses in February and June 2014, stated that the next administration would need to take forward a number of policy, legislative, and practical interventions to further redress the dispossession of our people of their land. That's what the President said. Therefore, the policies that will drive actual socio-economic change and interventions in rural South Africa will include the following: the democratization of decision-making in matters of land administration and development. This is critical. This is critical because our icon Nelson Mandela says, I'm paraphrasing this, he says, there can be no true democracy without the direct participation of our people. So that's what the President of the Republic said, during the SONA said, the democratization of decision-making in matters of land administration and development. Secondly, he said facilitating scaled-up land reform, and finally, instituting legally secure tenure and managed agrarian transformation as a basis for broader rural development. That's what the President said. To this end, we as a department have undertaken a series of policy, legislative and institutional reforms with the aim of accelerating land reform, tenure reform, land development and rural economy transformation based upon the agrarian strategy addressed earlier. As such, the following bills will be introduced to Parliament for consideration: Electronic Deeds Registration Bill, Regulation of Land Holdings Bill, Extension of Security of Tenure Amendment Bill, Communal Property Associations Amendment Bill, and Communal Land Tenure Bill. These will, of course, there are policies that will be, on which this will be hanging. Working together with the economic sectors, employment and infrastructure cluster departments, our policy, legislative and institutional reform processes will be advanced. Chapter 7 of the medium-term strategic framework, as adopted by the June 2014 Cabinet Lekgotla, provides 6 strategic imperatives towards achieving comprehensive rural development. The departmental strategic plan, as well as annual performance plan, have been submitted to Parliament in terms of the rules of procedure of this August House. We acknowledge that to enable the department to deliver on its ambitious programs, its capacity will have to be dramatically strengthened. Honorable members of this House have said this so many times. This should include communication with stakeholders and strategic partners. In this regard, Honorable Chair, sicinga ukuba omasipalati bazasincedisa kakhulu ngoba kukho abantu abaninzi ngoba uPresident kula ntetho yakhe utshilo ukuba kufanele sikhawulezise sigqibezele amabango abantu ababebange phambi ko-1990 phambi ko-December 31st ngo-1998. Sicinga uba omasipalati bazasincedisa ngoba omasipalati sifuna ukuthumela kubo ii-notices bazixhome ebhodini bakwazi futhi ukusincedisa uba ngoba kukho abantu abaninzi ababangileyo, abanye abaphenduli, abanye asibazi i-address abathethi, asibazi i-address zitshintshile, kodwa siyabazi omasipalati abakubo. Sizawufuna omasipalati basincedise, basi-organizele aba bantu ngoba ezinye zeengxaki zabo ziingxaki zophando, i-research capacity yethu khange ibe strong. Okwesibini, amabango benziwe ngokubhala. Kule game njengoba sivula amabango nje, amabango enziwa electronically, so azawukhawuleza kunangaphambili. Yiyo le nto kuzawunyanzeleka ixatho lethu liphakamele aba bebebange ngaphambili ukuze sikwazi ukufikelela kubo sihambe nabo ngoba asizobalinda xa singabafumaniyo abanye sizawuqhuba siqhube naba esibafumanayo. Ibudget yethu ime ngolu hlobo. Now, in terms of the medium-term expenditure framework, the budget year to 2014-2015 is 9.455 billion rands. 2015-2016 is 9.574 billion rands, and 2016-2017 is 10.673 billion rands. Honorable Chair, I just want to make a few comments on this is a very important aspect of the policy speech, that there is a big discussion about the National Development Plan in our department. Just want to say that our department is committed to the National Development Plan. In fact, A lot of our programs and policies, in fact, are informed by the National Development Plan. As you would know that the National Development Plan has got a model which is based on the following principles: enabling a more rapid transfer of agricultural land to black beneficiaries without distorting land markets or business confidence in the agribusiness sector. You will have noticed that in the print, there are three principles underlying land reform. One of them is deracializing the rural economy. The second one is democratic and equitable allocation and use of land across gender, race, and class. And the last one is maintaining production discipline to ensure that food security is not negatively affected. That, in fact, is part of our strategic thrust. Second one says to ensure sustainable production on transferred land by making sure that human capabilities precede land transfer through incubators, blah, blah, blah. This is an important one. However, there is a catch here. The catch is that, could you imagine us beginning to train people before we transfer land? It means that we would have to take a number of many, many years training people, and then transfer land. These things should happen simultaneously, and that's how we're approaching it. And thirdly, establish monitoring institutions to protect land markets from opportunism. Honorable Chair, in our own model, we'll notice that in terms of the transfer of land, including communal land, there is a protection measure which we have introduced. This protection measure is saying that the first right of refusal is the community itself in terms of the model. The second right of refusal is government, so that we can protect. Because our people, most of the time, they use land, and this is a very important point I wish we could take note of, because they use land, and when they use land as a collateral, they use land with the banks, etc. And when they can't service the banks, the loans with the banks auction the land, and the land is often taken back by people who have got the money, and generally those people from whom the government had acquired the land. So we think that it is a matter, it's a policy issue which is very important. So we have then said, much as we are in terms of communal land in particular, which is an area which is in this policy speech, we're saying communal land is communal land in terms of its tenure, the reform that we're introducing. It's going to come here, the bill, one of the bills here. It's communal land with institutionalized use rights. It's critical because we have to make sure that the households in these communal areas, irrespective of the gender, their tenure of security of their plot or their plot is institutionalized. In other words, it's in the law, so that they can use this use right as a collateral with the bank. They can will it perpetually. So, but we have to protect that land from land sharks. Fourthly, bring land transfer targets in line with fiscal and economic realities to ensure that land is successfully transferred. Of course, land is transferred to people through land redistribution, through restitution. The problem is that when you transfer land and give people titles, they use this, as I said earlier on. So that is why we've settled for the proactive land acquisition strategy. And that is why, therefore, the state land tenure is leasehold, so that we can stabilize the land market, because the land market is not stable, because you can't expect people who are poor getting land from the state. They want to use this land most of the time with very little support, and they use this land as a collateral with the bank, and then they lose that land. They lose the land. 2005, when we started, already we had lost about 5% of the land, which the state had redistributed to people because of their inability to service, including people who had actually gone to the land bank. These are challenges which we're faced with, and therefore we have to make sure that before we just distribute title deeds to people, which we will do, but certainly we will do with regards to tenants, with regards to farm dwellers. This is what we are going to do. It's in the policy. Honorable members will read that through. And then fifthly, we said, it says here, offer white commercial farmers and organized industry bodies the opportunity to significantly contribute to the success of black farmers through mentorship, etc. Exactly, we've got 437 commercial farmers who are mentoring emerging farmers out there. There are many of them sitting here. Some of them are mentors, others are the farmers. These are farmers who are sitting here. It's not, yes, we see there's a youth in Narsec. These are farmers, many of them sitting here. So those farmers are actually very successful farmers through the Recapitalization and Development Program, which we started in 2009-2010 financial year. They actually are going to graduate, some of them, into fully fledged commercial farmers. We're proud of that. Deputy, Honorable Chair, you see, this is there's something that I think we should just read here, because we think that it is very important. We quote President Nelson Mandela here. We think it is very important for us to understand that we are not the first people to deal with the question of land. We are actually building on a long legacy of struggles to regain control and ownership of land in our country. But the important thing is that we should ensure that our people participate in the change and even drive the change. Because this is what President Mandela said to this House on the 18th of August, 1994, during the President's budget speech. He says, to present a facade of unity on each and every issue would be artificial, undemocratic, and patently pretentious. The more these issues are aired and opened up for public debate, the better for the kind of democracy we seek to build. Handled within the bounds dictated by the interests of coherent and effective governance, such debate will definitely enrich our body politic. This applies equally to debate within the parties about how to manage this novel experience. This is Nelson Mandela. It's very important. He also says on the 25th of February in Durban, 25th of February, his second speech after his release in prison, he says, since my release, I have become more convinced than ever that the real makers of history are the ordinary men and women of our country. Their participation in every decision about the future is the only guarantee of true democracy and freedom, says Nelson Mandela. It's very important. But finally, in conclusion, I just want to read, Honorable Chair, read you what was said in 1910, what happened in 1910. I think the honorable members, particularly of the Democratic Alliance, would be interested in this. When black South Africans didn't have franchise, they couldn't vote. And they were represented by white senators. Let me conclude. This is what Andre Odendaal writes, and I quote, all that remained to complete the composition of the South African Parliament after the general election of September 1910 was the announcement of the 8 senators nominated by the cabinet. 32 members of the Senate of 40 had already been chosen by the colonial parliaments in their final sessions. This is 100 years ago. 4 of the nominated senators, the so-called the native senators, were to be chosen on the ground mainly of their thorough acquaintance with the reasonable wants and wishes of the colored races in South Africa, unquote. Now it says, in the event, the final list of names of the 8 nominated senators was announced on 13 October. That's 1910. The 4 chosen to represent black interests were W. Schreiner, Colonel Stanford, J.C. Kroch, and F.R. Moore. The choice of Schreiner, listen to this. The choice of Schreiner was universally approved. Now, approved meaning by African people, by black people and Africans in particular. Listen to what King Dinuzulu says. Then, in 1910, King Dinuzulu spoke for many Africans when he told Schreiner, all my trust is on you. May the Lord keep you and give you power fearlessly to advocate the just and equitable principle, or rather treatment, just and equitable treatment of the of the natives in South Africa. It's very important. It's very important. Let me read it again. All my trust is on you. May the Lord keep you and give you power fearlessly to advocate the just and equitable treatment of the natives of South Africa. The reason I read that is that the notion of justice and equity, which finds expression in our Constitution, Section 25, in redistributing national assets and resources among all South Africans, was not invented by the founding fathers and mothers of our country's democratic constitution in 1996. It wasn't. It was already the cry of black South Africans more than a century ago. We dare not let them down. Together, moving South Africa forward. I thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I just want to inform the members that we've noted that there is a mistake in the registration slips that you have. There's a wrong date which says the 17th. So the table have noted that mistake. So I just thought it's important to inform members so that you are aware that that anomaly has been picked up. I also would like to ask our guests in the gallery that when the House is in session and there's a lot of debate, maybe it will be exciting at some stage, you are not allowed to participate, which means you can't clap hands or interject from where you are. Just smile and keep quiet and watch the debate in session. Ikakhulukazi abalimi nolusha olukhona ngizocela ngokuzithoba okuhloniphekile umhlonipheki uNgwenya Mapila.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, and other Deputy Minister who are here, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Deputy Members, our guests in the gallery. Although you are not allowed to participate, I recognize you. The first democratic president of South Africa, Dr. Nelson Mandela, once said, I quote, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one another," close quote. Honorable Chairperson, the 19th of June 2013 was the centenary of the 1913 Notorious Land Act, which was used to dispossess more than 4 million people their land and stock. People became strangers in their own land. They were stripped their right to land and dignity. To reverse the ills of the past, the ANC democratic government initiated the Restitution of Land Rights Act of 1994 to give opportunity to those who were affected, dispossessed of their land after the 19th June 1913 to lodge claims by the end of the 31st of December 2008. Progress has been made by the department to give people land, and some beneficiaries opted for alternative land and some for financial compensation. Nearly 8,000 claims were settled, benefiting close to 1.8 million people. Honorable Mandela will give more details on this. While implementing the Restitution of Land Rights Act, the department experienced challenges which derailed the restitution program. Challenges such as the conflicts among beneficiaries, escalation of the land prices, untraceable beneficiaries, delay in the issuing of title deeds to beneficiaries as indicated by the minister, resistance by some farm owners, lack of research capacity as said by the minister, and lack of communication between the department and beneficiaries with regards to their claims. We welcome the plan of the department to partner with some institutions to fast-track the research of the outstanding claims. In this financial year, the department would research 1,445 claims to ensure that outstanding claims are dealt with. As the President has indicated in the State of the Nation's address, that the department has to accelerate the settlement of the remaining land claims submitted before the 31st of December 1998. As the ANC government always consults with the people and takes the mandate from the voters, concerns were raised that some people did not lodge their claims due to the following reasons. Others were not aware of the restitution process. Others missed the deadline of the 31st of December 1998. Others were blocked by others who were against the restitution program. Therefore, the 53rd conference of the ANC in Mangaung took a resolution that there's a need for the reopening of the lodgement of claims. As the ANC is the government of the people, by the people, for the people, the President in the SONA highlighted the need for the reopening of the lodgement of claims, responding to the concerns raised by the public. The department therefore initiated the amendment of the Restitution of Land Rights Act. This was an indication that the department was at work. During the public hearings conducted in the 4th Parliament as part of the public participation process, people commented as follows. Paulos Nkurumani indicated that we missed the deadline. Other people said we support the restitution of the Land Rights Amendment Bill. Others said strengthen communication, information did not reach us. Others indicated that let the relodgement process be decentralized. Others said that why the government is not expropriating, you are delaying us. Others indicated that the outstanding claims have to be finalized. We have a responsibility, therefore, as members of this parliament of going out and mobilize people and go and apply on time. Let them not wait for 2019. A responsibility of going out and educate the affected families and individuals about the procedure for lodgement, as the department has developed a simple manual to assist communities to understand the process. Let's all join hands in making sure that people get their land back. During the public hearings in Mamusa in Northwest on the 13th of January 2014, concerns were raised by the public that there are people who are going around and demanded money for them to claim on behalf of those affected. Don't pay anyone. The department has officials who will explain the process and assist people with their applications. The reopening of lodgement is free of charge. The restitution program is not for sale. The department must take actions against those who collect money from the poor people. As the minister once said, if people commit fraud and corruption, the department will get them. If the department gets them, they will pay for their sins. Let that be implemented. Honorable Minister, the Office of the Valuer General is critical in supporting the land reform. The establishment of that office will assist a great deal in fast-tracking the land reform programs and standardize the land valuation. Minister, you are on the right track. Don't hesitate to turn the situation around. South Africa belongs to all who live in it. Let's make sure that people are owners of land. They work the land as they used to eradicate poverty and unemployment. Do what the people want, not what individuals want. Restitution is the first step of land ownership. It must be accompanied by pre- and post-settlement support. Most of the beneficiaries struggled after getting their land back due to the lack of skills and farming equipment. The initiative of the department to recapitalize and with the recapitalization and development program to assist the struggling land reform beneficiaries through mentoring, strategic partnership, and co-management. It had a positive impact in maximizing production and providing infrastructure. The plan of the department to recapitalize 303 farms is mostly welcome. The committee will closely monitor the implementation of the recap program to ensure that the set targets are met. The challenges thereof remain of briefing the beneficiaries about the role and responsibilities of the strategic partners, as there are mentors who are failing our beneficiaries. The lack of monitoring of strategic partners to ensure that their intervention is bringing a change to beneficiaries by providing skills and maximize the production. Lack of monitoring, it's a matter for concern. The involvement of other departments, the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery, through CASP and Extension Service, and the Department of Water and Sanitation will strengthen this program and ensure full production. This shows that the ANC supports smallholder farmers. Lot has been done and more needs to be done. NDP envisaged the creation of 1 million jobs in the agricultural sector by 2030. Through recap, 909 jobs will be created. This will ensure NDP target is met. There will be no food insecurity, as prophets of doom are saying. The people who work the farms now are the ones who are working in commercial farms and make huge profit for farm owners, while workers earn peanuts. Uma abantu banikezwa umhlaba, abasebenze ngokuzimisela, bakhiqize ukuze kube nokudla okwanele, bathuthukise umnotho wezwe lakithi, ukuze silwe nendlala kanye nobuphuya. The 53rd conference of the ANC in Mangaung took a resolution of the provision for the exceptions to the cut-off date of 1913 so as to accommodate the Khoi and San descendants, heritage sites, and historical landmarks. During the public hearings on the Restitution of Land Rights Amendment Bill in Uppington and Mamusa in Northwest, which is an act currently, the hearings were attended by the representatives of the descendants of Khoi and Sans, who indicated their support to the amendment of the Restitution of the Land Rights Act, although it does not accommodate them, which was a concern to them. Thereafter, the President, in the State of the Nation address, calls for the codification of the exceptions to the 1913 cut-off date for descendants of Khoi and Sans. The department has started with the consultation process with Khoi and Sans, which is a build-up to the development of the exceptional policy, which will involve heritage sites, historical landmarks, and create opportunity for the descendants of Khoi and Sans to claim as they were the first whose land was taken before the enactment of the notorious 1913 Land Act. The committee will appreciate the fast-tracking and the finalization of the exception policy for the Khoi and Sans to benefit in the land reform program. A progress report on this matter will be expected from the department, and this matter needs to be finalized in this financial year. Human resource development lies at the heart of economic, social, and environmental development. It is a vital component for achievement of sustainable development. South Africa, it's a developmental state. We therefore need capacitated employees to lead development and transform the economy. The training of staff will contribute in building capacity to bring about improvement of staff quality of life, that of their families and communities. It further builds institutional capacity. While the department will be investing in internal skills development, it should also develop the retention strategy to offset the challenge of high staff turnover. The plan of the department to develop internal capacity to 150 employees will contribute to the improvement of its performance and reduction on the usage of consultants. The department has vacant strategic positions which were not filled in 2013-2014 financial year. This will impact negatively on the operation of the department. Therefore, the department must fill all the vacant funded strategic positions. Recruitment process must not take long. As the ANC, we don't expect any underspending due to unfilled vacant funded positions. We commend the department for the improvement in the financial management. The expenditure trend of the department shows an improvement from 91.6% in 2009-10 financial year to 99.4% in 2012-2013 financial year. Whilst the improvement is commended, quality of services delivered is expected. The public purse spending must change the lives of the South African people. As Parliament, it is our responsibility to approve the budget of the department. We therefore expect the department to account on the use of funds allocated to it. Furthermore, the department received the unqualified audit opinion in 2012-2013 financial year after several qualified audit opinions. Keep up the good work. And use the resources effectively, efficiently, and economically. Let the department attend to matters of emphasis as raised by the Auditor General and develop a plan to address gaps as identified. The Honorable President Jacob Zuma, in the State of the Nation address, emphasized that service providers should be paid within 30 days after submission of valid invoices. In the previous financial year, the department has been able to pay 91% of service providers on time, which is a progress. But the department must ensure that 100% of service providers are paid on time to avoid unnecessary accruals and interest. During this term, no underspending will be tolerated while people wait for government service. Full compliance to Public Finance Management Act and Treasury regulation is also expected. No to fruitless and wasteful expenditure. No to irregular expenditure. The Honorable Minister, in his 2013-2014 budget vote, he talked about the plan to initiate the Animal and Field Management Program, which seeks to address the challenge of soil erosion, overgrazing, disease control, and provide fencing, feedlots, and cattle handling facility. The extension of the program is mostly welcome, as it ensures that communal land regains its capacity to feed inhabitants in a sustainable manner. This project has created jobs and provides skills to rural people through animal and field management program. The project has started to bear fruits in Tingamanzi, Mokhason, Gonono, and Mieche and other areas. Honorable Minister, the stock farmers of Nkomazi area in Mpumalanga, other parts of Eastern Cape and Limpopo are waiting for this important program. Chairperson, rural areas were marginalized during apartheid. They were pushed into reserves. There was nothing, only bushes. There were no basic services, no infrastructure. Crumbling infrastructure exists. This marginalization increased migration to urban areas. Therefore, in 2009, the ANC cabinet, which cares about the people, adopted the CRDP, which is a comprehensive rural development program. In the same year, the Honorable President Jacob Zuma launched the CRDP pilot at Mieshe in Limpopo province. The president said at least one person from each household will be employed for the period of 2 years to eradicate poverty and reduce unemployment. This program was aimed at a comprehensive approach to provision of basic services, enterprise development, and agro-village industries in rural areas. The department has been playing a facilitation role, working with other departments to address poverty, unemployment, and improve the standard of living of rural people. Through this program, 4,000 people will benefit in this financial year, especially through job creation. CRDP program is bearing fruits and is visible in Mieshe, Rimfasmark, Mtunda, Diatalawa, Kleinbergen, Middelpost, and other areas. Lots has been done, and lots still needs to be done. We appreciate the progress that has been made by the department in improving the lives of the rural people. Through the CRDP, the ANC provided lights where there was darkness, provided water where there was no pipe, provided health centers where there was no health facility, provided ICT, which was a dream to rural people, provided toilets where there were bushes. ANC provided decent houses where there were mud and reed houses. The ANC provided land to the landless. The ANC talks less and do more. Go to rural areas, you will see for yourself. The ANC has left the mark. The ANC government is the only government that cares for all the people. Today, South Africa,
I'm afraid,
it's a better
Honorable
country
Member, your time is up.
to live in. Honorable Chair, as the ANC, we support the budget. Thank you.
Nina bekunene malunga endle shamthetho ahloniphekileyo ngidawucela ke nyalo ukubita babe Mhlongo Njomani ngisho ke ukuthi inkosi yami uyaqala nekukhuluma la endlini ningamshawuti kakhulu.
Sihlalo omuhle ohloniphekileyo ngiyabonga. It is an honor to address this house today on this very important topic. The Democratic Alliance agree with the notion, Chairperson, that South Africa belongs to all the people who lived in it. Abansundu nabamhlophe. Abansundu nabamhlophe. For this reason, we support land reform. Land reform is so important to us. We must ensure that land reform benefits all the people, not the few. This we support because our community today, Chairperson, it is shocking to see that the department only achieved 44% on its target during the previous financial year. Chairperson, because this topic that I'm going to address, it's personal, in a sense that I'll discuss Ingonyama Trust as Honorable Minister did not touch Ingonyama Trust. This issue is close to my heart because I've got a family, Abahlala, in Natal, and Ndwedwe. Chairperson,
Honorable members, let's allow the member to say his speech.
Onezindlebe Magezwe. We note that, Madam Speaker, the board was created as a political agreement during 1994 to ensure political stability in KwaZulu-Natal. Its mandate was to administer 2.8 million hectares on behalf of our community. Our community today still live in poverty under your watch, Honorable Minister. Isigungu sethu asisebenze zomhlaba. Abantu bethu basamele ama-title deed wabo. Chairperson, since 1994 to date, 20 billion rand has been spent on this entity. Honorable Minister, the chairperson of Ingonyama Trust Board, we met him. He did not have a good story to tell about the entity. We are concerned with the following issues. There's no clear picture
Chair.
of the lease agreement.
Chair.
Issues like Inkandla.
Honorable member, can you take a seat? Is the point of order, member?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to ask the honorable member a question.
You can email me the question. Thank you. The chairperson of Ingonyama Trust, honorable member, honorable minister, did not have a good story to tell. Issues of concern are, there's no clear picture of lease agreement. Issues like Inkandla, they don't adhere to implementation of a budget. No accountability by the entity. They use consultation fees too much. ITB, it's not aligned, its business plan is not aligned to the NDP, Honorable Minister. Democratic Alliance proposed that we look the terms of office of the board members. The Trust Act says that members must only serve 3 years, but some of the members of the board, they've been there since 1994. It's shocking, Honorable Minister. We think that we must review or assess, Honorable Minister, the value of Ingonyama Trust. If our community are not benefiting from on this land, I believe that we must look at the pilot project which was in Free State, Honorable Minister, where our community members are receiving title to the land. We must empower our community to give title to their own land. Honorable Minister, the land reform must empower our people, not the group of traditional leaders. If our people do not have title deed, they cannot participate in the economy, Honorable Minister. It's like an apartheid-style reversal. We believe that individuals must own the land, not traditional leaders, but individuals. The current system or the current approach is not working. It keeps our community or our members or our people poor. Honorable Chairperson, the Democratic Alliance would like to see youth benefiting from rural development and land reform program, not a PR exercise that we are seeing today. In order to address or to reduce poverty, we must create jobs. The National Youth Service Corps, NAFSAC program, it's not benefiting our people in the rural areas. There's a say that empower the youth, develop the nation. Develop the nation, empower the youth. Since 2010, the money has been spent, but there are no outcomes, Honorable Minister. Plus minus 90 billion has been spent, but there are no outcome. Madam Chairperson, I've received a letter from...
Ungehloniphekile Njomane, isikhathi sakho sesiphelile ba.
Thank you.
Siyabonga. Is there an order, member?
Yes, Chairperson. I did not want to stand up on a point of order while the speaker made his maiden speech. I would just ask you, Chairperson, maybe to explain to the members in the House what does a maiden speech mean. And I think Honourable Mandela was out of order to ask a question. We will continue with this now.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Maybe the
Honourable
translation
Chair.
wasn't as good. In the beginning, I did explain that this is the maiden speech and members must be a bit sensitive that Njomane was making his speech. But
Honourable Chair.
it also goes to his, you can take a seat, Honourable Mandela. If the member also makes the debate lively, obviously there will be people who respond. But as you noted, he didn't take a question as he was asked. Honourable Mandela, do you want to make a point of order?
Yes, Chair. Maybe to be more precise, Chairperson. The honorable member is misleading this House. by the claim that the department has spent 20 billion on the ITP. And we
Honorable-
would like that to be looked at.
Honorable member, we would look into that in Hansard to see in what context did the member make the statement that he made, and if there's a need to rule, we will rule as such.
Chairperson,
Is there a point of order, sir?
yes, I submit to you that there's no such thing as a point of order on
Honourable-
misleading the House.
Honorable member, you can take your seat. I said we would look at the statement. If it is in order or out of order, we will indicate as such. I can see this debate is becoming a bit lively, even though not in the speech. Ngizocela ke manje ilungu elihloniphekile uMgxithama.
Honorable Chair, I note the color of your dress and also the color of the chair of the portfolio committee. On a more serious note, we do not have a land reform program or policy in South Africa. If you look at the past 20 years, we have only redistributed 8% of the land, and about, again, 40,000 white people own land in South Africa. In fact, we are just giving those who stole our land money. Our president a year ago could not pronounce the billions that we give to one single white family that benefited from the stolen property. And we get letters also from the public that our people are being paid as little as 25,000 a household when we force them to take compensation. The land policy program of this government promotes illegality. You take taxpayers' money, you make us buy stolen property. I wish when the minister responds today, will give us a reason why are we buying back our stolen property. Who says we want that argument that land in South Africa is not stolen property? I hope we'll hear that. This government has given up on land reform. There are no targets. In 1994, we said we'll distribute 30% of the land in the first 5 years. We couldn't do that. There was a new target. This year, 2014, is the year of another 30%, which has not been realized. If you look at the plans of government, there's no more any indication of any targets. It means we don't know when land will return. I'll tell you when land return. The 30%, if we go in terms of this current speed, it will take us more than 100 years, and we're buying back that land. So there is no land reform. And we're clear as EFF that ons gaan nie ons land terugkoop nie. The offer of the EFF, and I'm talking to you because you're supposed to carry the mandate of our people to change the conditions of our people. We're still offering you our votes. We are, exactly. We're still offering our votes to amend Section 25 to get to a point of you don't want land to return to our people. That is why you're rejecting a proposal to amend Section 25 so that we can have expropriation without compensation. You are defending white interests. You are the ones who are blocking land reform. That is why you don't want to use this parliament and the power that we all have here to change the conditions of our people. It is clear today. The ANC refuses to amend the constitution to return land of our people. Then you have the madness of the opening of the restitution process. That is only about giving land, giving money, and new looting to rural elites. We have seen in the past 2 weeks, chiefs and kings putting claims against claims. We are pushing our people back to divisions and difakani. Every single black person in this country who is landless must get land, not because of the tribe that they come from. Because they are landless, they must get that land. Land question is important because it can make us bring a new society. But we can't do it in this way. Minister, you're taking us back instead of taking us forward. Then there is another bad policy because this policy that says 50% must offer share equity. What is that? It is about making sure that the farm workers who are there on land, to remove all of them by next year, April.
Honorable
Because we've given farmers a year to evict our people.
Honorable Mgxithama, can you take a seat? Member, do you have a point of order?
Yes, Chairperson. I want to check if it's implementary if you say that we're makhatlapa. That means we declare as stupid. I want to check that, Chairperson.
Can you give us a translation?
Niyazazi kaloku namakhatlapa. Ningamakhatlapa.
Honorable member, the table is going to talk to the language services just to get the translation, and we'll make a ruling towards the end of the discussion. Can we allow the honorable member to continue to speak?
Engosi. Well, this policy of so-called 50% equity, share equity, firstly, it is simply about evicting our people. And secondly, I don't know why the minister is bringing back share equity schemes when his own research have shown that share equity schemes don't work. Minister, when are you going to make that report public? Because in that report, it is clear that share equity schemes don't work, are very bad for our people. We must do the important thing and not reduce land into a political football. Clearly, the ruling party is playing a rhetorical game of sounding radical to avoid doing the radical land reform proposals of the EFF. The only solution we have here is land expropriation without compensation. This budget is about fruitless expenditure, and more than that, it is about pursuing illegality. We are not going to buy back our land. Let us take that money and instead invest it in new agricultural program, give our people land, and all of them, including ANC members who are landless majority in our country, are waiting for this land. It's 20 years later. It's no point bringing these people here and say they are your partners. 22 million black people in this country are landless.
Member,
and there's no possibility of doing land without expropriating land without compensation.
Your time is up. Honorable Stole.
Salo sonpegileyo no Minister Ngongqoshe. At the outset, let me say that the IFP support this budget. The legacy of apartheid will continue to roam over this country, and its house development, land reform, and equitable distribution, therefore, for many years to come. We still see great social economic disparity in South Africa, and this department has the difficult task of leveling the playing field. Our poor and most vulnerable, the majority of which reside in our rural communities, continue to live in conditions that are unfit for animals. They have no electricity, have to walk greater distance for water, and live in dwellings that are largely unsafe and sound. In fact, we condemn that. The department planning and implementation in terms of rural development remains weak and uncoordinated. We have very few independent black farmers. Qualifying black farmers owners have little assistance in terms of the proper applications and procedure for land claims. Despite 20 years of talking about it, the government still have no plan to accommodate tenants and farm workers, some of whom are three-generation tenants who have nowhere else to go. The department convention of building vibrant, equitable, and sustainable rural community with food security for all must be given greater impact. We have stated this before, that we have liked to see more focus being placed on reviving farms that we brought for trust and cooperation, which in the vast majority are now unproductive. Former farm workers who were employed in those farmers are still unemployed as we speak today. Reviving this farm will not create jobs for our people and contribute directly to decreasing current high number of unemployment in our country, but also provide a direct form of subsistence to those involved. Regarding to the recent reopening of land claims, we hope the department will open offices in all most rural areas as well, so that there will be easily access to land claims application forms. The department must also assist emerging farmers with further training and with access to farm equipment. We further believe that The introduction of agriculture subject in schools must be given strong emphasis. Obligatory manual subject must be introduced. Vocational training must be increased, and agricultural education must be expanded in all schools all over South Africa. The history of land ownership before 1913 has been ignored in terms of claims rights. This is land which belonged to our foreign fathers, land on which they breathed and died defending. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, the battle of Isandlwana, Encome, Ondini, Eshiane must not be easily forgotten. Kwalala insizwa, Honorable Chairperson. Kwalala maqhawe. Kwafa okhokho lapha. Belwela umhlaba obabamkhulu. Belelwa izwe ukuthi libuye. Sihlalo ohloniphekileyo ngicabanga ukuthi amakhosi lalele khona anombuzo ukuthi ngabe
Isikhathi sakho
Esikwenzayo
sesiphelile lunga
kuyikho.
ehloniphekile.
ngiyathokoza.
Siyathokoza nathi. Malunga endlu yeshamthetho ngizawucela ukuthi sinikeze ithuba kusekela ngqongqoshe womnyango wezasemakhaya nezomhlaba ozobe naye ekhuluma okokuqala phambi kwalendlu umnumzane Squash.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I participate and present this speech in honor of a close colleague, the recently departed former Chief Whip of the NCOP, Umama Nosipho Ntwanambi. Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, honorable members, invited guests, Sol Plaatje, the first Secretary General of the South African Native Congress, now the ANC, described the Natives Land Act as, I quote, the most cruel and abominable law ever conceived since the introduction of white rule in South Africa. We must do everything, Minister, in our power to restore our people's birthright to land, liberty and peace, as set out in the historic document, the Freedom Charter. In order to achieve this, bold and practical initiatives need to be undertaken. Those must be within the confines of the Constitution. Honorable Chair, the DA's open opportunity for all approach to land reform appears progressive in its language. But upon closer examination, it leaves much to be desired. The ANC does not share such a common policy perspective. The ANC disagrees with the absurd DA view that land reform can be measured by hectares of land transferred to those who were dispossessed by white rule. On the contrary, we believe that the transfer of land should be accelerated. Black people own so little land in this country that the amount of land transferred will always be a key measure of our success. To ignore this is to perpetuate the current imbalances and status quo. Of course, we disagree with the Freedom Front, who always like to exclaim Swartlefar every time we discuss land reform. The patience of our people has been tested for so long. This attitude of testing the patience of our people negates the fundamental point made in the Freedom Charter, that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. These parties must agree to embrace reconciliation and to share in the land in our country. In contrast, Chairperson, there are also many white patriots who are farmers who see the urgent need, Minister, for land reform and who are willing to assist the emerging black farmers. We urge them, more and more of our compatriots, to share their skills and experience. Minister, we are here with 62% of the voters having given us an overwhelming mandate, and they expect us to do the right thing. Minister, asizango cenga apha. Asizango dlala. Kudala abantu bakuthi becinezela. Having said that, we must also indicate that there are some amongst us, even in this chamber, who for their own narrow interests want our government to be paralyzed into inaction around the issue of land. As time goes by, they will grow up, Honorable Mngxitama. We have been there before. We are not reckless. We are building a country that we want to make sure that is united and is in peace. In the book, Oliver Tambo Speaks, former President Thabo Mbeki.
Chairperson.
Honorable Deputy Minister, can you take a seat? Yes, Honorable Member.
I hope that the Deputy Minister would be kind enough to accept the question because he's putting a challenge.
Honorable Mngxitama, that was not a point of order. You are asking whether the Deputy Minister can take a question. Deputy Minister, will you take a question?
If the time will be extended, yes.
No, we won't extend the time, so you can answer the question afterwards, after this chamber. Honorable Mngxitama, can you take a seat?
He's not serious.
Can you take a seat?
In the book, Oliver Tambo Speaks, former President Thabo Mbeki, whilst discussing the 1994 political breakthrough in relation to the defeat of the old and the victory of the new forces, quotes Karl Marx, who observed that, and I quote, "Men make their own history, but they do not make it as they please. They do not make it under self-determined circumstances, but under circumstances existing already, given and transmitted from the past." Reflecting on this, former President Mbeki continues, and I quote again, "The National Democratic Revolution entered into agreements during the negotiations, taking into account the conditions which Marx described not being its self-selected circumstances, but under existing circumstances given and transmitted from the past. No revolution is worthy of its name if it does not know when to enter into such compromises and get lost about what it should do afterwards in pursuit of its strategic goals." There is a difference between form and content, Chair. We therefore wish to repeat, recklessness is out of the question. I wish to focus on some of the things we shall be implementing. Land reform. This is a task that we take very seriously in the department. The President in his State of the Nation address said the following: "Government will provide comprehensive support to smallholder farmers by speeding up land reform and providing technical, infrastructural, and financial support." Open and close quotes. Land reform is one of the tasks central towards the transformation of our society. Ordinary citizens must benefit in the post-1994 political breakthrough. Land reform is pursued through the following 4 pillars: restitution of land rights, redistribution, land tenure reform, and development of the land. We inherited a fragmented land administration. To confront the challenges of tenure insecurity, we are going to be convening a land tenure summit in August 2014, just next month, in order to reach consensus on what ought to be done practically to reverse the colonial and apartheid legacy in which more than 75% of the black population is predominantly landless, propertyless, unskilled, and do not have secure tenure rights. Poverty alleviation and job creation are therefore amongst key indicators that will measure the success of land reform. To upscale land acquisition, access, and development support will begin to establish district land committees as envisaged in the NDP. In this financial year, focus will be on Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Mpumalanga. As part of our commitment to the outcome of vibrant, equitable, and sustainable rural communities and food security for all, we had set out to achieve sustainable agrarian reform with a thriving small and large farming sector. To give practical expression to our commitment, in November 2010, the minister launched the Free State Red Meat Value Chain Pilot. To achieve its immediate objectives are to develop emerging farmers into commercial farmers, as well as to integrate them into red meat value chain in the Bloemfontein area. I am proud to announce that in the next 2 months, amongst the projects that the department will launch, which are practical steps to bring land and dignity back to the people, are one, in the Limpopo province.
Honorable Deputy Minister, your time is up.
Conclusion.
Honorable Deputy Minister, your time is up. Ngisacela umhlonishwa uKhubisa.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, honorable members. There is no doubt that we need to reverse the ills of the past. Our people were dispossessed of their land. And we need, with vigor, to ensure that we restore land to them, we redistribute it to them in order to bring their dignity back. The department states that in this medium term, it will focus on land reform, land restitution, and equitable land redistribution and agricultural development by more than 1 million hectares of land by 2019, provide support to 2,706 farmers, both small farmers and land beneficiaries. And of course, functional and institutional capacity and systems will be needed and should be put in place to ensure that there is land tenure and land development. Obviously, the question of correcting the ills of the past is non-negotiable. Our people need land. They need to have their birthright back. They need the land of their forefathers. To do that, you need a law. You need legislation. The law needs some form of negotiation, of course, and the willingness of all stakeholders to ensure that they negotiate. The NFP, therefore, welcomes the budget of this vote. Of course, we welcome it. If we want to work, we must welcome the budget. We've got to criticize, we've got to say, this is what we need. But we've got to welcome the budget to ensure that we effect what we want. That's the line we should be taking. That's the line we should be taking. By saying that we're not welcoming the budget, how are we going to work? We need to work. Wait, we have to work. Okay. You may reject it if you want, but the NFP will welcome this budget so that we do the things that we want. And we're not going to be dragooned by you. You have your own affairs. We'll do our own deal. The NFP welcomes this budget, and we further support the land reform program budget.
30 seconds,
it must be increased. And we say, therefore, our people need skills. They must be trained. They need to have those farm officers that they need. They need agricultural officers. They need researchers in order for them to use the land for security, for community development, for decent settlement, for commercialization and job creation. Oh, baba mkhulu bahanjelwa yizwe siyalifuna ukuba lisebenzele abantu bakithi babe nesithunzi abasifunayo and lokhu kufanele kusheshe kwenzeke manje kuzokwenzeka manje and the department therefore must be capacitated to do that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Maybe before we call Honorable Mandela, let's just remind members that as you speak there is something next to you that says how many minutes are left. So we don't have to remind you. Just remind yourself. Because at least in this chamber, there is something that tells you how many minutes you have left. Thank you very much. May we now call upon Honorable Member Mandela.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Minister Gugiling Quente, Honorable Deputy Ministers Mashego, Dlamini, and BC Squatsa, other ministers and deputy ministers that are present here today, our chairperson of our portfolio committee, Mam Ngwenya Mabile, honorable members of parliament, and indeed our esteemed guests and stakeholders, Director General and staff of the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, comrades, friends in the gallery. Molweni, good morning, goeiemorgen. I am profoundly honored and privileged to be able to participate in this debate as part of Team ANC on such a strategic and important matter as the land question. Land dispossession was a key feature of racism under colonial apartheid rule, and in this beautiful land of ours, it indeed devastated our land. The struggle against land dispossession can be traced back to the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck in 1652 and the subsequent movement, what is called a Groot Trek, from the Cape to the interior to all the coastal areas by the colonial community at the time. The Groot Trek from the Cape and to the consequential occupation or acquisition of land was met with resistance from the people that were found here. There is a saying in the Americas, if one looks at Peru in particular, you look at the Apache in America, that when the colonial arrived there, they believed there was no one living there because the people that they found there were considered not to be human. This is what happened in our country. Honorable members, 7 years before the passing of the heinous 1913 Land Act, and 3 years, a mere 3 years, after the Treaty of Vereniging that unified two Boer republics with two British colonies into the Union of South Africa, Chief Bambata led an uprising against attempts by the British colonial government in the then Natal province to further alienate people from the land through the imposition of poll tax to force people living off the land to work in the mines and on the farms built on the land, dispossession from the black people. I've said earlier, there was resistance against this disposition of land. This is an example of a hero who fought courageously and died. He was murdered, he was decapitated, as an example to anyone else who wants to resist. This Land Act was not the first or last instrument used by the colonial white minority regime of the time to dispossess and force people of the land. Black people, inclusive of the Khoi and the San, as my chairperson have referred to earlier, as well as the so-called Buster people, later known as the so-called coloureds, were over generations systematically deprived of the land by successive colonial governments. Prof. Legasik, again with reference to my chairperson who referred to a consultative conference with the Khoisan San organized by the Department of Rural Development and Land Affairs and Minister Gugulein Quente last year. At that conference, Prof. Legasik detailed what the Khoisan community have experienced. It says that the Buster community were deprived of their farm. They were living on the shores of the Orange River. And in a country or a piece of land, an area, not a country, an area called Cordonia, in 1895, when amongst them a intellectual giant discovered irrigations, ways to irrigate their farms, the white settler farmers there decided this is now an opportunity where we have now access to water and we can get these good lands. And indeed, they were all deprived of the land. They were banished to small reserves like the Land Act provided for later. In response to a petition submitted to the then colonial parliament by this community in 1921, protesting against land alienation, the government created, as I said earlier, pockets of reserves for them and took the best land from them for the white community. The impact of this draconian piece of legislation cannot be better described by the then words of the great South African intellectual, journalist par excellence, linguist, and founding Secretary General of the African National Congress, Honorable Saul Plaatje, when he said, awaking on Friday morning, June 20th, 1913, the South African native found himself not actually a slave, but a pariah, an outcast in the land of his birth. Indeed, Honorable Thabisi Skwatsha, Deputy Minister, have referred to this great giant. The Group Areas Act became another instrument to displace millions of people from the land they occupied. Honorable members, as the ANC, we have demonstrated a resolute commitment to address this major historical injustice visited on our people. This major historical injustice include our people that have been robbed of their dignity. They were made slaves on their own land. They were robbed from being able to be self-sufficient in food production. Generations after generations were impoverished and forced into cheap labor on the mines. They were subjected to the thought system that turned them into alcoholics. Our reconstruction and development program identified land reform as a basic need and defined the twin task of land reform to be land redistribution and land restitution. On the 26th of June 1955, people gathered at Kliptown under the leadership of the African National Congress and adopted the Freedom Charter, and in which they declared, amongst others, that the land shall be shared among those that worked it. The ANC resolved, amongst others, at our 52nd National Conference in Polokwane to establish this department. President Zuma, His Excellency, gave effect to this decision in 2009 when he put his executive together. Our strategy and tactics document clearly reiterate the critical importance of access to land and correctly asserts that programs to eradicate poverty and to reduce inequality will succeed only if the land question is systematically addressed. It goes on to state that the access to land is a critical ingredient to attain human dignity. Honorable Chairperson, Mr. Minister Gugulein Quente have referred to the 53rd ANC National Conference that resolved to accelerate the pace of land reform. Amongst others, it argued that land reform must represent a radical and rapid break from the past without significantly disrupting agricultural production and food security. This is very important because it reminds us to be extremely cautious of offerings of political parties to say, we will support you if you destroy this country. We will support you if you burn this house down and build it from scratch. We cannot do that. We are a responsible organization. We are saying that the state must mobilize resources to reverse both the human and material conditions of those displaced by previous land policies and therefore resolve as follows. Transformation imperatives dealing with the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality in the rural areas ought to be addressed without further delay. Equitable land allocation and use across race, gender, and class must be assured.
I'm afraid, member, your time is up.
Chairperson, the ANC support this budget vote. Thank you very much.
We now call upon Honorable Member Filtane.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister and Honorable Deputies, and members at large, Honorable members at large, and our guests up there, we appreciate your presence today. Chair, the UDM appreciates the department's honest, but not so earnest policy implementation. There's a difference between the two. Rural revitalization and innovation in its economy is a priority, we admit. But the majority of people still live in abject poverty. That is a fact. One major flaw of economic policy in the last 20 years has been the failure to bring infrastructure in the rural areas on par with that in the cities without necessarily urbanizing the rural rustics. The socio-economic consequences of this flaw are what we continue to witness today: chronic housing shortages and many other social ills. The UDM supports aggressive and radical intervention in rural development, which will ensure that the matter does not remain just a political football. But the department is not quite radical in its approach, we have to admit, Minister. The post-settlement land program is just not producing the desired effect, and that is fact. Even the minister has admitted to that. The department shares a vision with the Department of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries to create vibrant, equitable, sustainable rural communities and food security for all. Yet, 5.6 million South Africans still live in abject poverty with no food security at all. What does the department propose to do about this? It's a serious matter. That the door has been opened for more land claims to be submitted, whilst the department is still struggling and way behind with validated claims, leaves one wondering how and when these new ones will be accommodated. There's still, after the final financial year 2014-2015, as admitted by the department, there will still be 744 land claims to be attended to, not necessarily reaching the final stage. That's a matter to be attended to. The outstanding claim by the people of Bazia in the Eastern Cape, which encompasses forests which are currently being utilized by a company there. They are not getting any rent out of it. They are not getting any benefit. It's been outstanding for far too long, Minister. They live in abject poverty, the people of Bazia in Umtata. Please prioritize this matter. Land reform. My biggest concern here is that there are no statistical reports on the socio-economic achievements. Yes, we hear about the amount of money spent, the land, the hectares, and what have you, but that's not exactly what people are expecting. We want to see socio-economic reform. The department's model for economic development, therefore, is not comprehensive enough. You see, you need 6 imperatives to be comprehensive and effective. So many of those elements are missing. Land acquisition by foreigners needs to be kept at a certain percentage. It can't just be free for all season. Even so, we need to look at the value-adding factors, which the acquirer will bring to the country's objectives, like long-term employment, skills development, and provision of food security. It shouldn't be an open season, Minister. Please, our land is going. The UDM knows with concern the huge transfers on an ongoing basis to Ingonyam. This needs some peculiar attention. I know that as a committee, we've asked that we get a report within a matter of months. I'm not going to dwell much on it. We'll address the matter more comprehensively when we get those reports. The UDM supports the budget. Thank you.
We now call upon Honorable Mr. Groenewald.
Geachte voorzitter, ek wil vir die agbare minister sê, minister, die begroting is so rapsie oor die 9 miljard, 9,3 miljard per jaar. In die begroting beplan u 2,6 miljard rand vir grondrestitusie. Maar u eie departement sê dat u verwag, nou dat die restitusie eise oopgestel is, ongeveer 397.000 eise. Dit gaan die belastingbetaler ongeveer 179 miljard rand kos. Nou, agbare minister, ek sal van u wil weet, hoe beplan u om te dink u kan 'n sukses daarvan maak as u 2,6 miljard rand 'n jaar kry vir 179 miljard rand se verwagte eise? Dit beteken dat om daardie eise af te handel gaan amper 70 jaar vat. Dit is 'n leeftyd. Met ander woorde, as iemand vandag 'n eis insit en die persoon is 50 jaar oud, dan moet die persoon 120 jaar oud word om die eis te kan, die waarde daarvan te kan kry. Daarom sê ek vir u, die heroopstel van die restitusie-eise was 'n fout gewees. U skep onsekerheid en ek wil vandag vir u sê, ons weet mos dat in die vorige termyn wat plaasgevind het, 93% van die eisers het die geld gevat. Hulle het nie die grond gevat nie. Hulle het die geld gevat. En ek wil vandag vir u sê, dit gaan hierso weer eens oor om die belastingbetaler se geld net te versprei en u dink u skep rykdom. Is dit nie ook maar net weer 'n geval dat die konings nou weer hulle eise kan instel? En laat ek dit weer op rekord hier plaas, agbare minister. As ons sê grond is gesteel in Suid-Afrika, dan sê ek vandag vir u, dan is dit die swartes wat die grond gesteel het by die Khoi en die San. Laat dit op rekord wees. Hou op om te praat van diefstal, want dit is dan waar diefstal plaasgevind het.
Just hold your order. Can we hear you?
Yes, Chair. The honorable member is distorting our history.
What is your point?
Dis nie 'n punt van orde nie, voorsitter. Hy praat nie dinge is.
Mandela hlala phansi ba.
Elkeen het
Point
sy
of order, Chair.
elkeen het sy eie
Point of order.
interpretasie van.
Just hold on. What's your
The
point
point
of
of order is that this man is lying. The Khoi are black
Just.
Africans.
That is not a point of order. Sit down.
Agbare voorsitter, you get some people, the arrogance exceeds their intelligence, so I will ignore that. Die werklikheid van die feit is, dat ek sê vir u, u skep 'n verwagting by mense dat hulle grond gaan kry, wat hulle nie op die einde van die dag gaan kry nie. Daarom wil ek vir 'n beroep op die agbare
Mr.
minister.
Groenewald, just sit down. Can we hear your point of order?
This man's lies offends me, Chair.
It's irrelevant whether
Honourable
it
members,
offends you. I said, don't let your intelligence or your
Mr.
arrogance say
Groenewald,
it's your
Honourable Member
intelligence.
Groenewald, can you sit down? Sit down. Honourable members, one of the things that we are supposed to be, all of us, we are supposed to be honourable members. The other things that we are supposed to do is not to say certain things in this house. One of those things is that other people are lying. That is unparliamentary. It's a language that does not belong to this house. Now, if there is a point of order that people want to raise it, but don't then come to a conclusion that somebody is lying. because that is up to the presiding officer to do so. That is not correct. It can't be correct. We have then called those who said so to order. Mr. Groenewald, continue with your speech.
Dankie, voorsitter. Ek het dit ook al gesê, agbare minister.
Order, Chair.
Om blote grond...
Chair.
Agbare voorsitter, ek het nog 'n toespraak by verdediging wat ek ook moet lewer. Regtig, hierdie mense staan in tydmos hier.
Point of order.
Chair, ngicela nje clarity on you, Chair. To be parliamentary, if umuntu ethi mangabe namanga, which is a correct word, to be parliamentary, because we understand ukuthi is unparliamentary.
Can we just say to members here, if you have a particular view that a member is misleading or lying, then you need to bring a substantive motion to the House. It can't be a point of order. But I know this is just free education. Thank you very much.
The Freedom Front Plus is willing to give a free education in a workshop as well. Maybe you need some education because I told you, your arrogance exceeds your intelligence. Ek wil ook sê, agbare voorsitter, dat ons moet vir mekaar sê.
On a point of clarity, Chair.
Jy het nie 'n punt van orde nie, sit.
There is no point of clarity. Sit down.
Point of order then, Chair.
What is your point of order?
Since when are these people who are land thieves going to continue disrespecting us?
Sit
Is that
down.
a minority who comes here and tells us can give us free education
Sit-
when he's stolen our land?
Honorable Mqitama, sit down.
He has no right to be here, this man, in fact.
Mqitama, sit down. It's unparliamentary to call anybody in this house a thief. It can't be allowed. If you continue to do so, you will then be forcing us to do what we must be expected to do. Sit down, Mr. Mqitama, and
Honorable
withdraw
Chair,
the thief.
Honorable Chair, everybody knows that
Mqitama.
I'm not a thief.
Just hold on.
But at least I can say...
Groenewald, sit down. Mqitama, withdraw the thief statement. Withdraw it.
Chair?
Withdraw the thief statement.
No, but that is the truth. He represents land thieves.
Mqitama, withdraw the thief statement.
So, Chair, I mean, are you saying that I am not allowed to speak the truth in this house?
Mqitama,
Just
in this
clarify.
house, you will not call another member a thief. Therefore, you are supposed to withdraw that statement. Withdraw it.
Okay, Chair, what do you call a thief?
Mqitama, withdraw that statement.
Unable to withdraw that statement, Chair.
Then do us a favor, Mqitama. If you can't withdraw the statement, then leave the house. Leave this house. You can't insult members of this house. We leave this house.
It's not an insult, Chair, it's the truth.
Leave this house, Mqitama.
Chairperson,
Chair.
On a point on order, can I
Groenewald,
just say
sit down.
before
Order,
the
Chair.
Groenewald, sit down. Groenewald, sit down.
Chairperson, it's my
sit
time
down.
to speak. Let I speak, please.
Groenewald, sit down, please. Mqitama, I've just requested you to leave the house.
Chairperson, can I just say before the honourable member leaves the house?
No, it's not for you.
There's
You are
only
not.
one truth.
Groenewald,
and that is that
sit
his
down.
leader is a tax thief. That is what it is.
Chair, on a point of order.
I've just made a ruling. Is that point of order on my ruling?
On this thief.
If you are not prepared to withdraw, can you also leave the house?
Thank you, Chair. He must bring back our land.
Leave the house. Maybe members, let's just sit down. We will give you your remaining seconds, Groenewald. Let's deal with this matter once and for all. Members, immaterial how much we feel about one another.
Chair.
We are expected to observe the decorum of this house.
Chair.
And this is what is expected. Just hold on. This is what is expected of us by people in that gallery and by people who listen to what we say. They don't expect us to be insulting one another in this house. It can't be right. It can't be tolerated. We can't be building a South Africa as honorable members by insulting one another here. Now,
Chair.
can we hear your... Your point of order.
Yes, Chairperson. I'd like you to rule on the issue of Honorable Groenewald, who says black people have stolen land. And I think on that note, Chair, you then need to take it into consideration what the honorable member of the EFF has just raised, because it cannot be accepted in this house and in this country that black people have stolen land.
Mr. Groenewald, would you mind to withdraw the statement that black people have stolen land?
Can I address you on the point of order, Honorable Chair? The fact of the matter is I never said that black people stolen the land. I said if, you must listen, I said, Honorable Chair, that because previous speakers came to this podium and they said that the land has been stolen, and then I said, if we have to talk about that, if that is what the honorable members are saying, then if we have to talk about it, then we say that the land has been stolen from the Khoi and the Sun. But we know that it is not been stolen.
Honorable Groenewald, can you
Point
sit
of
down?
order.
Just sit down, Honorable Fabs. Can you withdraw, and just in the same way as we have asked people to leave this house for calling other people thieves, can you withdraw any reference to black people stealing any land?
Chairperson, I would say it quite...
Can you withdraw?
Quite-
Can you withdraw
Ek sal dit
any
duidelik sê,
reference?
agbare voorzitter. The black people did not steal any land.
Thank you.
But the whites also didn't steal any land. That's the point.
That statement has been withdrawn. Thank you very much. How many seconds does he still have? How many?
No,
What? How many?
point of order.
20 seconds. Honorable Phelps?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think the Chairperson and the Speaker's office take these decisions within collegiate and discuss and make a ruling if you're not making one now. I don't think that it's proper in this House to debate with the Chair as to what is proper and what isn't. And I think that really the member in question, the Honourable Member Groenewald, should refrain from being his own judge and jury. Thank you.
Point taken. You have got 20 seconds to wrap up your speech, Honorable Groenewald.
Agbare voorzitter, laat ek dit duidelik stel. Hier word van hierdie podium gesê die wit mense het die grond gesteel. Verstaan die konteks waarin ek dit sê. Ek sê as dit so is, dan kan ons ook sê swartes het grond gesteel. Maar die feit van die saak is, niemand het grond gesteel nie. Die agbare minister het eendag op 'n verantwoordelike manier gesê, daar was oorloë gevoer oor grond. So laat ons vir eens en vir altyd hierdie storie wat daar gesê word, grond word gesteel, net vandag hier begrawe, want dit is onaanvaarbaar om enige een daarvoor te beskuldig.
Thank you very much.
Ek wil net afsluit,
Mr.
agbare
Groenewald.
voorsitter, om te sê,
Honorable Groenewald, your time is up. Thank you very much. Now we have not been called honorable member, but just stay there. We now call upon the deputy minister, and by the way, this is her maiden speech in this august house. Mashego Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The Deputy Speaker in absentia, our Minister, our Deputy Ministers were present in this House, honorable members of the House, our partners in rural development and land reform, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans, good morning. Let me begin by emphasizing what was said by our president of the ANC in January 2014 in the ANC 102 anniversary. I quote, "The ANC together with the communities will work towards poverty eradication in rural areas. Accordingly, the current rural development policies suggest an instrument and approaches for the active rural poverty eradication, and further to mobilize and organize rural communities against the roots of racialized and gender-based rural poverty," close quote. Chairperson, 20 years since the advent of democracy, a lot has been achieved towards reversing the negative legacy of the 1913 Native Land Act. The Department of Rural Development and Land Reform introduced the Comprehensive Rural Development Program in July 2009. And since then, the program has been implemented in all provinces. The CRDP rolled out in 3 phases, which run both sequentially and simultaneously. Phase 1 deals with meeting basic human needs with infrastructure as a key driver, including food security. Phase 2 is focusing on rural enterprise development, and Phase 3 relates to rural industries supported by localized market and credit facilities. The vision of the CRDP of creating vibrant, equitable, and sustainable rural communities is beginning to be evident in some of the earlier villages where CRDP was implemented, like Diatalawa in the Free State, which was developed as the first rural green village. Since the start of the CRDP in this area, around intervention dealing with the 3 phases of CRDP have been implemented, ranging from improving housing, access to water, sanitation, and energy. This has been coupled with the enterprise development, which included the development of 100 hectares under irrigation, provision of dairy infrastructure, and improved livestock program. As we begin to move South Africa forward together, we have taken cognizance of the fact that comprehensive development is not an event, but rather a process that requires a consolidated long-term plan, which covers all the areas that impact the lives of a rural person. This holistic change is well captured in the strategy of agrarian transformation, which refers to the rapid and fundamental change in the relation of land, livestock, cropping, and community. This means that agrarian transformation is not just a land reform. It is about social, technical, economic, political, cultural, organizational, and institutional issues. Hence, in areas like Diatalawa and Mieshe, which was first pilot to the department, is still working with those communities to ensure that radical socio-economic change continues. Chairperson, we are partnering with the CSIR and will this year test the implementation of the R13 concrete road technology in the Eastern Cape. This is a very labor-intensive technique that could provide us an opportunity to improve access in rural areas at a lower cost while still contributing to job creation. Chairperson, revitalization of rural towns is key to ensure that rural-urban linkages are created for sustainable economic transformation of the rural space. We are pleased to announce that in this financial year, the department will be managing the implementation of the Neighborhood Development Partnership Grant in support of rural municipalities. This is being done through an agreement with the National Treasurer, and it is anticipated that over the next 18 months, this program will be transferred fully to the department, which will give us an ability to expand the work that we have started with the 27 priority rural districts. Over the past years, the department has been supporting various women cooperatives to expand their art and craft enterprise. Ngomgqibelo lodlulile sifuna kusho kulendlu ukuthi besinema cooperative abomake lang 93 laba lebasebenta umsebenzi we-art and craft. Kulawo ma cooperative kubenefit abomake labang 188. Nasisuka lapho sidimisele ukuthi sibakhe babe i-cooperative lenkulu bakhona ukurana libhank labo. Sifuna kubonga ke Mrs. Sibisi Make Mazondi lona lo imento kule program. Sifuna ke kusho futhi ukuthi sisaqhubeka ngomsebenzi wethu wokuthuthukisa indzawo tasemakhaya. Chairperson, His Excellency the President in the State of the Nation address placed emphasis on skills development. In this regard, the department will enhance the implementation of the National Rural Youth Service Corps program with the main objective of recruiting and developing rural youth to become agents of change in rural areas. To date, 13,894 rural youth has been recruited, and more than 5,000 of these youth have been trained in various construction disciplines, including community housing, building, paving, welding, and electrical engineering. Honorable Chairperson, During the first 100 days as a department, there are programs that we are going to complete from now up to end of September. Amongst those programs is Tugela Bridge, Masia Multipurpose, which will be completed in September, Beaufort West Youth Hub, with a cost of 50 million, is going to be completed this financial year. The iSchool Africa Rural Development, in partnership with the private sector, will be launching in August, and we are going to reach 61 schools which will benefit 40 learners in rural areas. Tugela Ferry Irrigation, where we are going to spend 40 million. Msinga Auction Facility is the one that is going to be completed in September. Then the Tabanchu College in the Free State has been identified to serve as a headquarters for the National Rural Youth Service. It will serve to accommodate youth during the recruitment, induction, and medical assessment. As this department, the facility as well, it is going to be the final resting place of the 1913 Native Land Act exhibition, besides being an essential part of the NARISEC. Ngifuna kusho ke kulendlu ukuthi sinenkosi Khoshi Maroka waseThabanchu who is in attendance in this house. As a department, we are willing to work together with the traditional leadership so that we move our rural community forward. In conclusion, Chairperson, we are certain that through the CRDP, working together, we are surely moving rural South Africa forward towards a sustainable, vibrant, and equitable future. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Mashiko Dlamini. We now call upon Honorable Member Chichonga.
Honorable Chair, honorable members of Parliament, the honorable members of public, my brief is that to be honorable, you must be honest. We are dealing with honest people. Ahang has this to say: bills to be tabled are supported. Budget, we need more money, but no cent must go to corruption. Training and transfer, simultaneously, as the Honorable Minister has said, it's supported. And the institutionalization of use right, it's supported. Assignment on the 1913. In 1978, I was doing assignment on African law. And I was so furious when I was studying this act of 1913. And in my assignment, at the end, as a conclusion, I said, this is a crime against humanity. And my professor said, you are too harsh. But it was in 1978, so I was thinking like our friends here. And I was requested when I came here by my neighbor as to, are you going to support the budget or not? I said to him, I will ask the Holy Spirit to guide me on that one. Now, my request is that our people in the rural areas need the real action, not rhetoric. I understand that the rural development is doing some work. There must be coordination between rural development and arts and culture. The money which is collected from lottery must be directed to develop rural area. The shopping malls must be directed to rural areas. People in the rural areas have to travel 25 kilometers, 30 kilometers to town to do the shopping. Why can't the shopping malls be erected or constructed in the rural areas?
I'm talking here about the area called Makado, where I am from. It's 25 kilometers from Sentumula and Kutama is 25 kilometers from Makado. We still use the pit toilet. But when I compare the pit toilet and the bucket toilet, I think the bucket toilet was safer. Will you please do something? We don't need pit toilet.
Honorable
we don't
member,
need bucket toilet.
your time is
please,
up.
our people are waiting for service. Thank you.
Members, order. May we now call upon Honorable Member Makadla.
Thank you, Chairperson, Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers present, Honorable MPs, guests in the gallery, ababonisa importance yale department. Honorable Chair, I agree with the Deputy Minister Skwatsha. Ati asizanga kuzokudlala apha. Asifundisi abantwana ukuthi mabathi mama instead of bathi bona tender instead of mama. Sifuna bathi mama hayi tender. The ANC's 52nd National Conference resolution in 2007 identified rural development, land reform, and agrarian change as critical pillar of South Africa's program of economic transformation. These issues are fundamental elements of a wider program restructuring, hence a need to ensure that land reform forms part of a wider program of rural development. Some of the crucial proposals were the need to support smallholder farming in a manner that improves rural livelihoods, creation of a fully resourced overarching authority to drive and coordinate an integrated program of rural development. The ANC envisaged implementation of large-scale programs that would establish new smallholders and improve productivity of the existing small-scale and subsistence farmers in order to address the triple challenge of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, especially in the rural areas. In terms of the ANC economic transformation and priorities, rural development is a central pillar of the struggle against unemployment, poverty, and inequality. High levels of rural poverty and inequality contributes to inhibiting the growth of the economy and undermines government efforts to ensure that growth is more equitable, shared amongst the people. Correcting the injustices of the past requires that women increasingly become the beneficiaries and decision makers in respect of strategies to overcome poverty in rural areas. Nimvile Apu Deputy Minister Mashiko Dlamini mentioned some women here with us. The ANC program of rural development, land reform, and agrarian change provides a clear strategy that seeks to empower the poor, particularly those who already derive all or part of their livelihoods from the exploitation of productive land. Honorable Chair, in line with the Freedom Charter's call that the land shall be shared amongst those who work it, the critical beneficiaries of change must be rural women, farm dwellers, household producers in former Bantustans, small businesses and rural entrepreneurs, and residents of urban and peri-urban areas that wish to engage in agricultural livelihoods. The ANC resolved in its 2007, that is 52nd conference in Polokwane, to embark on an integrated program of rural development, land reform, and agrarian change based on 4 pillars. You must listen. The provision of social and economic infrastructure and the extension of quality government services, particularly health and education, to rural areas. Fundamental changes in the patterns of land ownership through the redistribution of agricultural land. This must include comprehensive support programs with proper monitoring mechanisms to ensure sustainable improvements in livelihoods for the rural poor, farm workers, farm dwellers, and small farmers, especially women. Agrarian change with a view to supporting subsistence food production, expanding the role and productivity of modern smallholder farming, and maintaining a vibrant and competitive agricultural sector. Defending and advancing the rights and economic position of farm workers and farm dwellers, including through improved organization and better enforcement of existing laws. Specifically, and arising from both the manifesto and the 53rd National Conference, there is the need to ensure that through oversight and legislative drafting, the indigent are recipients of such programs. There is a strengthening of the proposals to move people onto land for productive purposes and other production discipline principles. The building of the rural economy through an interdepartmental initiative, and as part of this, establishing strategic institutions in rural areas. Localization of the rural economy through local procurement and expansion of operations in rural areas and local areas with the inclusion of Ingonyama Trust. The departmental state has a central role to play in leading and sustaining rural development. This includes leading the process of land reform, promoting sustainable change in social and economic relations, and supporting the goals of growth and development in the rural economy. The most critical sector for the economic development of rural areas and the country as a whole is agriculture. Agriculture has a potential to create work as identified by government and captured in the State of the Nation in June 2014 as a key driver, and through its linkages to other sectors, provides the basis for sustainable livelihoods and small business development on a mass scale in rural communities. The comprehensive rural development program has had the impact of raising rural incomes and building local economies. It has ensured the production of sustainability in food production, assured food security for the poorest, and contributed to the rural economy. Capacity is built by the department to enhance food production. Locally impoverished communities are participating in this design. Implementation and monitoring of rural development programs, and the department is assisting and supporting them by appropriate structures to give voice to affected communities and structure their engagement with government programs. Social movements and landowners all have an important role to play in the realization of this vision. Rebuilding the culture of agricultural livelihoods and rural entrepreneurship is being actively pursued by the department. Objectively, Honorable Chair, the annual performance plan reflects the building of stronger capacity and devoting greater resources to the challenges of rural development, land reform, and agrarian change. It reflects an authority to drive and coordinate an integrated program of rural development, land reform, and agrarian change. The challenges remain the accelerated rollout of rural infrastructure, particularly roads, potable water, electricity, and irrigation, and ensuring that rural areas are properly provisioned with an infrastructural base for economic and social development, and that farm dwellers, like all South Africans, benefit from universal access to free basic services. Forward with the Department of Rural Development. Forward. The ANC supports the budget vote 33 of the department. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now call Honorable Member Mpeti.
Chairperson, the PAC says Izwe lethu, which means our land. Land rights. In 1994, we appealed to South Africans that land first, all shall follow. And I'm happy that people are here today to come and listen. But we are saying again, it's the PAC that will deliver land in this country, no one else. No land solution will ever work unless it recognizes that the indigenous people of this country are the landlords thereof. God Almighty allocated the land to them. While the indigenous people are quite prepared to allow others to use the land, nobody must run away from the fact that the land will always belong to them. It is therefore a travesty of truth to divide the land into 50-50. It is an insult to history to say that white people are historically owners of the land and should therefore retain the 50% of the land. It is an injury to allocate 50% of the land to one white person, while the landlord, the community, should be content with the other 50%. The whole country should be transferred to the people and held in trust by the government. This is the only just approach, as it allows everybody to have equal access to the land. Nobody ever created land, and as such, no private ownership can be justified. So let us remember Africa. Let us remember those who paid with their lives so that we may have a half bread today. Even if we have what we call the imperfection in this country. We depend on all of you who gathered here to give us a better Azania. Allow me to remind all of you who are gathered here with the words of Robert Sobukwe. The cowards are still standing aside and the brave have made their choice. The ruling party will not address this law because when they go to their policy conferences, the land question is not a priority to them. PAC contends that the land question remains central to the politics of this country and that non-resolution to this political matter would continue to haunt our people for a long time to come. Our failure to address this question is a betrayal of the future generation. We congratulate Robert Mugabe for retaining land to its rightful owners in Zimbabwe. Africa, the question of land is too important to be left in the hands of South African government, which is not prepared to deal with this matter. To fail to propagate the question of land restoration is to fail our people. Reopening of the lodgement of the claims. How can land reform benefit all the people if the land claims start from 1914, not 1652? I thank you.
Thank you. We now call upon Honorable Member Carter.
Yes, all-rounder. Chairperson, the NDP notes that rural communities require greater social, economic and political opportunities to overcome poverty. Our rural communities represent the most marginal and needy of all South Africans and as such require special attention. The NDP identifies three main focus areas in respect of rural development: ensuring the provision of quality basic services, including education, healthcare, and public transport, expanding agricultural development through the expansion of commercial farming and through land reform, also developing agro-processing, tourism and mining. The issue of land, land ownership, land tenure, land redistribution and restitution is probably the most critical and emotive of issues facing us as a nation. In this regard, I wish to inquire from the Minister as to how the Minister intends to address the issue of land tenure in communal, or should we say tribal areas. Is the ANC bold enough to lead us and to ensure that our people obtain proper tenure of tribal land? Here we're talking about Ngonyama Trust land and all of those. The NDP refers to the need for a workable and pragmatic land reform model that would enable a more rapid transfer of agricultural land to black beneficiaries without distorting business confidence in the agribusiness sector. In this regard, the NDP sets out a proposed model for the redistribution of commercial farmland. The question that we must put to the Honourable Minister is, what motivated the Minister to introduce another draft proposal? Apart from the fact that the Minister's proposal has been disowned by his own party, his proposal flies in the face of the NDP. It is against, it's contra certainty, totally against what the NDP says, and it destroys business confidence in the agribusiness sector. We are chasing away investments and we are reducing our ability to ensure food security as a nation. I also wish to put it, Honourable Minister, that the reopening of the land claims under the Restitution Act is questionable. At face value, it provides an opportunity for dispossessed people who missed the previous process. With that, we agree. However, as time has been progressing, it seems more of a narrow political attempt by the ANC to appease and to be for the benefit of our traditional leaders. Let that not be it, please. One hopes the ANC has not opened a Pandora's box. Chair, I want to take the House on a trip, on a tour to the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal, specifically to Blythedale Beach. Beneficiaries lucky enough not to operate on a PTO got transfer of a commercial sugarcane farm in 2009. This commercial sugarcane farm, which was commercial, was obtained and purchased for 600 million rand. The community then decided to develop the property and entered into a shareholding business agreement with a property developer. This was a business decision. 3 years down the line, the community faced tribal infighting and there was a change of heart. They no longer wanted the partnership. A business decision. This leads to claims for cost incurred for, amongst others, environmental impact studies, plans, marketing, etc. The commercial farm is no longer bringing in an income. Therefore, the community, it's not creating an income. The community doesn't have the money, and they now have to settle this claim. It goes to court, and voila, magic occurs. What COPE finds most disturbing is that another amount of 340 million was paid for a farm that was already transferred in 2009. How can we transfer a property 2 times, Honourable Minister? I thank you.
Thank you. We now call upon Honourable Member Walters. I'm told it's his maiden speech as well. Welcome.
Honourable Chair, Honourable Minister, members of our public and fellow parliamentarians. The legacy of colonialism, apartheid, and the recently quoted story of the last 20 years have resulted in a country with an estimated 21 million South Africans left behind in our rural areas. Some parts of South Africa experience relative socio-economic development in line with global patterns, and other parts are effectively being left behind. It is safe to say that the human and natural resources of many rural parts of South Africa are simply not fully brought to the fore, and this to the detriment of especially the poor. This plays a key part in the lack of inclusive and rapid economic growth required to take our country forward. It is a chapter of this story we are hearing about that can be called still left behind. More specifically, Honourable Chair, the National Development Plan quite rightly identifies unemployment, including rural unemployment, as probably the single biggest problem South Africa faces today. Unemployment not only affects our people materially, but also destroys morale and hope, in itself an obstacle to overcome, even if our economic opportunities present itself. Nevertheless, this problem of rural underdevelopment and the negative story associated with it overshadows another possibility, a rural South Africa that can tell a story called brimming with opportunity and hope. Agriculture and agribusiness, in the words of the NDP, as the primary economic activity in rural areas, can be one of the most potent job creators and has one of the highest ratios of job growth in relation to GDP growth of the country. In other words, it creates a lot of real, inclusive jobs if and when economic growth takes place. To the DA, land reform is seen as a missed opportunity of the past 20 years that can be regained if we take the lead and demonstrate by example. Let me say more about what the NDP points out about the opportunities of land reform. The NDP refers to 1.3 million households that are currently engaged in some form of agriculture. If land reform and other rural development opportunities provide such households with the means to improve its own productivity and commercial capacity, the NDP says that a huge difference can be made in the improvement of livelihoods and job creation. More expansively, it identifies approximately 440,000 households that have the potential to raise its productivity and further expand employment to others. Honourable members, this will not happen without sensible policies and the proper implementation of it. The NDP, an overarching policy workshop thoroughly with civil society and the public, goes further and suggests that the driver of land reform initiatives should be land committees at district council level. Such land committees, according to the NDP, should consist of all key stakeholders in land reform and, in the view of the DA, presents an ideal platform to close institutional voids, to generate win-win solutions, leverage existing capabilities of agriculture behind land reform, and facilitate lasting economic partnerships and social compacts. The NDP goes further and specifies how land should be acquired and what type of land should be looked at. This, honourable members, is what more than 90% of this House agreed to. It is therefore amazing to see extraordinarily out-of-place chapters in this story that we are constantly being told about. Let's call them the apocryphal chapters. We see policy proposals and laws emanating from this department completely contradicting the NDP, that document that more than 90% of this House agreed to. Agbare lede, die sogenaamde konsepbeleid, die versterking van die regte van die wat die grond bewerk, is 'n totale klug. Hierdie swak geskryfde teenstrydige dokument het die volgende swakhede. Dit is ongrondwetlik in 'n aantal aspekte. Dit is moontlik strydig met kontrakreg en arbeidswetgewing. Daar is 'n wesenlike gevaar vir grondwaardes. Hier is dit miskien wys om daarop te let dat die 2007 wêreldekonomiese krisis ontketen is deur 'n verswakking in grondwaardes wat uitgekring het na die res van die ekonomie. 89 miljard rand se skuld is vasgepen in die waarde van kommersiële landbougrond. Vernietig die waarde van dit wat jy wil herverdeel en jy verdeel iets wat niks waarde het nie. 0 gedeel deur enige aantal begunstigdes bly gelyk aan 0. Dit beskryf 'n geforseerde bedryfsmodel vir dit wat werk kniehalter en dit wat nie werk nie verhef tot die standaard. Dit is 'n gevaar vir voedselsekuriteit. Voedselsekuriteit word uiteindelik die beste gedien deur kospryse so laag moontlik te hou, 'n funksie van massaproduksie en kompetisie. Dit skrik nuwe beleggings af met gepaardgaande ernstige geleentheidskostes vir werkskeping en ekonomiese groei. Dit skep angs onder plaaswerkers wat nie seker is of hulle oor tyd hulle werk sal behou nie. Om dit weer te beklemtoon, dit is heeltemal teenstrydig met die nasionale ontwikkelingsplan en dit moet onttrek word. This very same NDP makes specific mention of what actually needs to be done. It points out additional opportunities for job creation in communal land areas and redistribution projects where beneficiaries, I quote, are properly supported, close quote. Honourable members, let's unpack what the evidence suggests about what proper support means. It's common cause, even in the department itself, that land reform has dismally failed. Some reasons are a disturbing vacancy rate, unclear measurement of outputs rather than outcomes, slow progress with the required geospatial and cadastral services, itself overdue for a forensic investigation, and various missed targets. More importantly, the wrong business model or organisation of land reform projects is not only being used but actively kept alive. Billions have been lost over the years that could have purchased anything between a third to half of commercial agricultural land. Nowadays, a success rate of only 27% of land reform projects is celebrated as if it's a success. I frankly hang my head in shame as a South African. This chapter of the story to tell should be called, Who Are We Trying to Fool? Worse, the so-called success rate is probably artificial, since it comes on the back of recapitalization funding, in other words, bailout money for existing failures. On top of it all, we see a nearly puerile Marxist, the philosopher, not the comedian, fascination with cooperatives as a startup model for new agricultural ventures. The department's own figures suggest an 80 to a 90% mortality or failure rate for this type of business model. Honourable Chair, by far the most successful model for new beneficiaries to gain ownership and transfer knowledge in the commercial farming sector is the DA's preferred system of share equity schemes, where beneficiaries over a sensible period obtain ownership of land and agricultural assets. Thus, the dangers of a startup phase of a new business is avoided and proper transfer of knowledge can take place. The DA-led Western Cape government have demonstrated an up to 80% success rate of this approach, and we urge national government and provincial governments elsewhere to stop their short-sighted boycott of ideas from the Western Cape. The DA also supports the rapid expansion of individual property rights. Let's call this chapter of the story that we're hearing about not doing the obvious thing that works in the rest of the world. Rather than treat private property as the enemy and replace an unhealthy concentration of ownership in our economy with another monopoly, that of an inefficient state, real redress should be private property expanded to as many people as possible. The Gauteng Farmer Settlement Program, once the flagship of land reform efforts in the province, has nothing to show for it except for demoralized farmers and entrepreneurs, like my friend Thabo Mokone from Oshilakeng, that I hope is watching this, who lost everything. The ultimate reason why they failed is that they could not break the monopoly the government had on credit, markets, and support that they could access. The type of monopoly support is always dependent on the priorities of a bureaucracy and politicians, rather than that of the farm. Without individual property rights, banks did not have collateral against which they could lend, and as any businessman knows, without the ability to use debt or equity, no business can expand beyond the survivalist stage. Neither of the two are possible with the ANC's model, and beneficiaries will forever be locked into dependence on the state. Similarly, South Africans living on communal land are locked into the same situations since they cannot utilize the most basic asset in agriculture, the land, to empower themselves. If everyone owns everything, then nobody owns anything. The 44,000 households referred to in the NDP with the potential to expand will be unable to do so without the ability to raise debt or equity, because very simply, they do not own the land they're living on. And this is why, Honourable Chair, up to 50% of South Africa's best agricultural potential lies fallow, and some of the poorest in South Africa are living on some of the richest soil. To illustrate, in 1997, the Agricultural Research Council demonstrated that with basic investment, up to a 25-fold increase is possible in production on communal land, a formula for genuine job creation, enormous economic growth, and sustained food security. These South Africans are dependent on the largesse of traditional leaders, themselves entrenched by colonial and apartheid systems, and social grants, locking our fellow citizens into dependency on the South African government. Perhaps we should call this chapter of the story locking our supporters into electoral bondage to the ANC. Any discussion of land reform will not be complete without a proper discussion of one of its other legs. Land restitution has been one of the founding principles of our democracy and represents some of its earliest legislation. The DA, a party that believes in the rule of law and human rights, regards restitution as a fundamental act of justice. It represents redress, healing, and a foundation for a shared future. However, this chapter of the story we are told about has an ugly, vicious side. With many claims still unresolved, this government chose to celebrate the centenary of the odious 1913 Land Act with subterfuge, smoke, and mirrors. Despite huge fanfare reopening land claims to South Africans close to an election, and in the process accusing the DA of not supporting land restitution because of our opposition to this act, it is now clear that the DA should have been listened to and our amendments to the act supported. It is clear from the medium-term expenditure framework and budgets of this department that this government never had the intention of truly dealing with the estimated 397,000 land claims we can expect. As Amilcar Cabral, one of the ANC's own favorite philosophers, said, open quote, tell no lies, claim no easy victories,
Honorable
close
Waters,
quote.
can you take a seat? Point
On a
of
point
order.
of order, Chair. Is the honourable member aware that it's a maiden speech?
Honorable
Chair,
member,
there's-
that's not a point of order. I think the chairperson
Fine.
earlier
Chief,
did
there's time
indicate.
left at the end. He's welcome to try his luck. This act should be
Honourable
reconsidered
member
on
Walters,
many.
continue.
This act should be reconsidered on many levels because it pretends to pursue justice but will never deliver justice, and it creates insecurity because of how long restitution will take. Justice delayed is justice denied. Honourable Chair, to conclude a story about the ANC, one cannot conclude a story about the ANC without telling an anecdote about corruption. Let's call it how land allegedly gets stolen again. To use an example, it has come to my attention that beneficiaries of the national government's land reform program, a cooperative called Big Five Farming in the Dudouans area, have run foul of their strategic partner, an outfit allegedly well-known and well-connected to the ANC called SAFE, with an arm called Bono. When this group of beneficiaries allegedly indicated that they wanted to change strategic partners to someone better and not ANC connected, all of a sudden their lease agreement got renegotiated and new beneficiaries introduced onto the farm, allegedly favouring SAFE and Bono. It seems that this alleged manipulation will be pushed through this coming Friday in a supposed strategic partnership selection presided over by the National Department. It is apparently to ensure that SAFE Bono gets retained. It will be interesting to see how that story ends and what the ANC condones. Will the department in fact get them as we were promised earlier? Honourable Chair, the DA has announced recently that it will take ownership of the NDP and pilot its land reform suggestions in the Western Cape, where a successful chapter of South Africa's story is being written. We challenge other provincial governments to do the same. Let's see in deeds who truly cares about land reform the most. Let's write a new chapter showing the world how land reform can work for all of us. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member Mnguni.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers, colleagues, and our guests. It is an extreme privilege to stand here on behalf of the People's Movement, the African National Congress. I do not have a right to stand here. It is merely a privilege. It could have been any of the 11 million capable cadres and voters who put the ANC into power. The ANC cadres who have stood in this morning's debate up to now, Chair, have done quite well in articulating the policy and programmatic positions of the ANC with respect to the budget vote in question. And therefore, our task here as we stand will just be to lay some emphasis here and there and to tie up some loose ends and to try and reconnect the debate to the broader political questions of the day and to mop up some or any confusions, delusions, and others that may still be on the floor. Pity some on the ultra-left have chosen to leave, you know, because some of the myths also are largely told by them, let alone my colleague who just stood here just before me and said quite a number of things that would need much, much more time to really demystify through Honorable Walters. Very, very interesting persuasions to move away from Marxism to what? He has not told us. and said that if also many statements like if everyone owns, then no one owns. So if everyone has a vote in South Africa, then no one has a vote in South Africa, says Honorable Walters. Again, a myth and an empty proposition that we may not relate with or even buy into. The ANC since Pulukwane, since Mangaung, right through to the latest conferences, has put the portfolio of rural development and land reform into one of its main focus areas under the radar, or the main 5 priorities, with the likes of education, health, and so on. The tools at our disposal include the resolutions of the ANC, the much talked about Freedom Charter. Even those who stand to the maintenance of the status quo sing some praises to the Freedom Charter, the National Development Plan. Even the speaker before me here was quoting at length from that very same precious document, the NDP, and including the budget vote itself as tabled by the Honorable Minister. All these tools point to a direction that is very clear to change the lives of the vast majority of our people. Honorable Chair, everyone, it seems, in the current discourse acknowledges the existence of the triple challenges in the conjuncture, that is poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We do not know if some of the parties would be keen to walk alongside the ANC to even trace these triple challenges as to where they emanate from. That in actual fact, even the debate about theft that almost degenerated here, as some parties would have loved it to do, the debate even about the theft of the land should in actual fact be located in a proper context. Our definition throughout conferences and congresses in the ANC and in the alliance has always been coined around our characterization of the South African society as the one fraught with, now in the present day, you would say the legacy of a colonialism of a special type. And therefore, any attempt to understand land acquisition has got to be located in that particular context of understanding colonialism of a special type. Of course, colonialists would not be those who had minor skirmishes with the Khoi and the Zen, and so, as someone said in this podium. But colonialists would be those who came in 3 ships and settled here at the Cape Point. And from there, traversed throughout and fighting everyone who was the indigent in our own country. And so, as the ANC, we are very clear, we are not confused that a colonialism of a special type, or if you like, apartheid capitalism, that is the source of this evil that has put today our challenges of triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. With colonialism of a special type came in the 3 tenets, that those being the race, gender, and class exploitations. All those exploitative forms through the various colonial wars, some of my colleagues alluded to these, including in particular Honorable Mandela, who alluded to some of the colonial wars, or if you like, wars of dispossession. Wars of dispossession. So these are the wars that have ultimately, with our counterparts defending the land of our forefathers. You would know, through Chair, Honorable Mhlongo, if you were once close to the ANC, you would know the song that says, Elizwe lo khokho bethu. You know, that song really typically points to the dispossession, the wars of dispossession, and how South African majority became dispossessed. And with this race, gender, and class that coined colonialism of a special type, were to be unpacked, a much more deeper meaning of those scars, of those wounds. Who would wish to talk about race? Who would wish to refer any party in our relative left in the House, in our geographical left in the House, who's not clear about race, to go to the works of, for instance, Jack Simons and Ray Alexander, white compatriots who are not confused at all. To go to the works of Joe Slovo, white compatriot, who was not confused at all, who was prepared to go all the way, who was prepared to go and take up arms and destroy minority rule in this country. And many other white compatriots. Some are still amongst us in the ANC ranks, nicely and comfortably taking their rightful place in the creation of a national democratic society. The response of our movement over time since 1652 came to be coined in theoretical terms as the National Democratic Revolution. Of course, in the ANC's alliance, some of our formations also strongly believe in the socialist revolution. But however, confirming that the National Democratic Revolution is the shortest path towards a socialist revolution. And this NDR, throughout the ages, throughout the years, had been coined with the 4 pillars, as has been said here so many times before. The main thrust of the NDR, again, Abed Fomahala, Honorable Walters was here. I thought that you would have needed to understand this with some level of clarity, is and always has remained the liberation of the black people in general and the Africans in particular. And that this National Democratic Revolution with that main thrust, in itself, our movement, we are proud that it is multi-class, but with a working class bias. And therefore, class still remains with us. We cannot wish it away. Poverty, unemployment, inequality is a manifestation of the class structure of our society. And hence the talk, even at the debate last night, the likes of Honorable Comrade Fabs talks about the radical economic transformation. Indeed, the ANC is on a correct course to seek to usher in a much more expedited transition towards an economic empowerment or an economic transformation. The Freedom Charter is clear that the land shall be shared amongst those who work it. Some debate is still going to come, Honorable Chair, to this House, and when that debate comes about the relative strengthening of the people working the land, we shall expand at length about the Freedom Charter's clause on the land being shared amongst those who work it. Right. We will skip here the people's, in fact, a clear definition of the vanguard role of the ANC, so that it is clear to the parties that it's not just an electoral thing, go out there to these 50 million people and get as much votes as you can. That it is clear that society changes and certain forces are behind such social change, and what the role of the ANC therefore becomes in this particular context. You listen to the DA, Honorable Chair, in the House. You listen to the DA. Even last night I tried to listen to the DA. Honorable McPherson was worried about the strike that is going to come. Or you could hear that it's the bosses of industry speaking. And I would like to invite the DA to distance itself, if it doesn't want to be seen, as the mouthpiece of industry, as the mouthpiece of monopoly capital, to which we are strategically opposed, obviously. You argue that, no, the DA was not there in 1948, the DA was not there, but clearly you represent that which was represented by Grand Apartheid in 1948. There are some to our ultra-left for now. I do not know, well, they have opted to march out. They had other reasons. They had just to create a storm, Honorable Chair, so that they can then be excused from the House. But there were also some of them who really need some basic education on some issues.
Honorable Nguni, can you take a moment? Honorable Carter, is there a point of order?
Chairperson, I would like the Honourable Member to withdraw the statement of Honourable Groenewald. He did not storm out of here because he had a temper tantrum, he had another debate.
Honourable Carter. Honourable Carter. Did the member in his statement mention names? I didn't hear that.
Ultra-left is not.
Chairperson, his eyes did. Yes.
Well,
These
honourable
facial
member.
expressions.
Honourable Carter.
Agbare voorsitter, ek kan maar net vir agbare lid sê ek is terug.
Well, I can appreciate this is a very lively debate. Members are even able to see body language and the site, what it refers to, but I don't think that was an order, Honorable Carter. Honorable Nguni, you can continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. In actual fact, I was even referring to the ultra-left. I thought that Honorable Groenewald had gone out while they were still in the corridor so that they could take the point further, even if needs be to other levels, you know. But I'm very pleased, Honorable Chair, the Honorable Groenewald is here with us. Honorable Chair, quite a number of issues have been raised by our colleagues in the debate, and it would have been important of us to really touch on those. Of course, we know of no interaction in the committee. My two colleagues sit in the committee where there was any question to the department about an Inkandla lease agreement. But once my colleagues took the podium, they found it fancy to really make reference to such. So the department has not been asked nor given any answer on any such a notion. Honorable Chair, the issue about traditional leadership seems to be very, very confusing, especially to those who do not adopt a clear, coherent political approach to our current conjuncture. The traditional leaders are not illegitimate citizens of the country or illegitimate occupants of positions in our society. Traditional leadership as an institution has its own history. In fact, most of them and their forefathers were at the forefront of those colonial wars we actually referred to earlier on. And therefore, it may not be correct that to talk about communal land and land in the hands of traditional leadership is tantamount to talking about land nowhere at all, you know. I did allude earlier on about, or to the issue about the stolen land and stolen, and that it was a misplaced debate, that its correct context is a debate about colonialism and its effect. And therefore, it is clear, I like the poet, I do not know if my colleagues to my left hand have listened to the poet Mzwakhe Mbuli. He puts it very nicely. He says, the land bought, the land never sold. In other words, you could go, Honorable Minister Ngwindi, to anyone who owns the land, those who own vast hectares of land, and ask, your forefathers arrived here on a particular date, hardly 3 centuries ago, and who sold you that land? The land bought, the land never sold. And therefore, clearly, the debate about the stolen land...
Agbare voorsitter, punt van orde.
Honorable Nguni, can you take a seat? Honorable Groenewald.
Agbare voorsitter, is die agbare lid, is hy besig om te impliseer dan die wat die groot gronde het, dan dit gesteel, want hier was 'n beslissing gemaak om te sê ons hou vandag op om te praat oor grond wat gesteel is, want dit is wat hy by implikasie sê. Ek wil graag u reëling op die verband hê asseblief. I will repeat it in English, Chairperson. The honourable member in his speech, my question is whether it's in order to imply that people who is actually owning land has stolen that land, because that is actually the meaning of his words, and that's unparliamentary.
Honorable Groenewald, can I allow the member to continue? I will consult and then give a ruling at the end.
Thank you. Ndiyabulela kakhulu umhlali ngaphambili. Ndithi umhlaba owathengwayo ngumhlaba ongazange uthengiswe. Akakho umuntu onokuthi gqi enenkabankaba zemihlaba athi yena ngakumbi kwabexesha laphambi ko-1994 or 1990 athi yena wawuthenga lo mhlaba kubani ngamalini. Ndithi kodwa lento ayithethwa ndim ithethwa ngumzwakhe Mbuli. It would be nice to have the Honorable Groenewald set an appointment I can facilitate with the poet Mzwakhe Mbuli to ask exactly what he meant by the land bought, the land never sold. You know.
Agbare voorsitter, punt van orde. I will request...
Can you take your seat?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I don't know whether the translation is correctly, but I will also request you to also look at what the Honourable Member just has said, Because to say that the people say that they've bought the land, but it has never been sold, then it means they have stolen it. Please, look at that, because that's the implication. And we said today, Chairperson, we stop this nonsense today.
Honorable Groenewald, I asked if you could take your seat. I will rule at the end on the matter.
On a point of
So
order.
there is nothing new that Honorable Member has said beyond what he had said already. Honorable
On a
Mnguni, can you
point of
continue?
order, Chair.
Honorable
On a point of
Mandela?
order. Can the honorable member withdraw from saying to the honorable member on the platform that he is speaking nonsense?
Honorable Mandela, what I heard Honorable Groenewald saying was he requested that the chair should rule on the matter so that the debate on the stolen land should come to an end, said this nonsense should come to an end. It wasn't a reference to a member. Honorable Mnguni?
Thank you very much, Chair. It's a pity that this whole interjection has taken some few minutes minutes of my time. But Honorable Chair, the points about expropriation without compensation raised by PAC, by EFF and all, it's an impractical, unworkable, ultra-left posturing that cannot really be very practical in taking us forward. It would degenerate the country and the economy altogether. I'm mindful of time next to me, and therefore, based on that, and like the rest of my colleagues, Honorable Chair, have indicated, the ANC overwhelmingly and unanimously supports the budget vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mnguni. Ngicela ungqongqoshe wezolimo nezasemakhaya, wezomhlaba nezasemakhaya, ubaba uNkwinti eze ngaphambili.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Niyabulela kakhulu. Honorable Chair, kukhona le political party mkileyo apha. Everything for free. EFF. The ideology yayo anarchy. Uyayibona nje bani anarchy. Everything for free. EFF. Now kukho iyabaleka qho nje akho nto izabiyenze ngaphezulu kwaleya. Abantwana aba logged in the past somewhere. I apologize for saying abantwana, Honorable Chair, I mean figuratively. But Honorable Chair, I thank the honorable members who participated here in this debate. The Democratic Alliance, you know, Honorable Chair, let's note this. In 5 years, the Democratic Alliance had 4 members who are so-called shadow ministers for rural development and land reform. The Honorable Swati, Honorable Steyn, Honorable Trollip, Honorable Mileham, 4 in 5 years. Because you see, the problem is that abanayo i-policy on rural development and land reform. Ngoku amalungu abo axakiwe ba azawuthini. Bayatshintsha-tshintsha ngokwelokhwe nebhrukwe nehempe. Now, ndiyathemba uba Honorable Walters will last. You spoke very well today, by the way. No, well done. We have last. Let's hope that you will last. Just ask your colleagues before you. Honorable Swati has realized ukuthi lento lenqwelo ayikhweleyo inqwelo endiphantsi ukuthi yamagqwirha. Kodwa lenqwelo ayikhweleyo ayizomsandawo. Uhlile uthulekile nje babaleka. Ubuswathe ngoku. Usamwe unibonile into zakuthi akho nto kuni akazozuza nto apha kuni. Balekile uSwati. Namthatha uTrolip mfoka Trolip landoda ithethe isiXhosa kamnandi ukufa. Nathi ayigoduka. Akho nto uzawuyenza apha. Naye wagoduka uxakiwe. Anina policy ye rural development and land reform. ngoku niqokelela yonke into ye-ANC hayi yethu uNelson Mandela ngowabo yonke into enhle yabo Nelson Mandela ngowethu ngoku sisajongeleyo bathi i-ANC yathi gqi National Development Plan African National Congress eyethu baqokelela naleyo bafaka epokothweni bathi yeyabo abananto aba bantu akho policy lapha sibabizele abantu ukuthi mabake babaphulaphula abananto the emperor has no clothes abananto jonga sajongeleyo bathi jini ipolicy ze-ANC zinhle utsho bona and banyanisile kodwa mabazinike thina sithi abantu ozenza bhetere si-implemente ezi zabo zinhle bathi asikwazi no siyakwazi siyaqhuba nangoku sibheka phambili into yabo zibamamele qho zibamamele zizova xa bethetha nalo mtsha into yabo ingonyama trust you know why iyabahlupha ingonyama trust because xa ujonga la land audit u-50-50 wenjenje ukulingana kwe-ownership yomhlaba e-KZN ngenxa yintoni ila ngonyama trust le ndoda ivuthelela abanye laa ndoda le ayiyo yayo laa agenda lakalakade nayo
Honorable Minister, can you take a seat?
On a point of order, Chair, I just want to ask if it's parliamentary for the Honourable Minister to point to a member and say he. This one.
No, it's a praise word, Honourable Chair. Yes, it's a Nlenkalakata. Buti Nkalakata, umntu omkhulu.
Honorable Minister, take a seat. Maybe, Honorable Member, the phrase, it's said in a context, in a language where it's the man.
That's right.
Yes, it's not le as there, it's indoda, meaning this man.
That's right.
Yes. Honorable Minister.
Look, thank you, Honorable Chair. You see, Honorable Chair, I like the Honorable Stein. I once tried to recruit her to the ANC when she was a councillor, you know. And the thing is that she's so good, yeah? But she's good. The problem is that the party doesn't have clothes. The emperor has no clothes. Now, babemfakile naye baphinde bamkhupha usayithanda ke le portfolio. You see, so ndiyavelana naye kakhulu Honorable Stein. Therefore, Honorable Chairperson, in African National Congress, iyayiqhuba iSouth Africa isaphambili. Buya phula zuyifunde amalungu ahloniphekileyo zafunde le document besiyipresent apha. Le policy ngoba le policy sizawubabona xa sixoxa apha uziqonde yabo bathi bayethanda i-land reform. Sababona apha kula regulation of land holdings bill. Xa sixoxa yona. Uyabulela.
Enkosi. Order, honorable members. Earlier in the debate, point of order were raised on whether Honorable J.A. Mkutama was misleading the House. I undertook to come back to the House with a ruling. To constitute a point of order, a matter must relate to the rules of Parliament or parliamentary practice. A point of order should only be raised when a member is of the opinion that a rule or an accepted parliamentary practice is being transgressed. Points of order should therefore not be raised by a member to dispute what is being said by another at the podium, as this is a matter of debate and not a point of order. The chair therefore cannot be expected to rule on the accuracy of the statements made during the debate. If a member disagrees with the statement that has been made, that member should use the opportunity provided by the debate to give the House a different version. In addition, a further point of order was raised on the remarks made by Honorable Mkutama during his speech. The remarks as translated are in inverted commas, "You are cowards, you are afraid of white people." That's the phrase he used in Setswana. Section 58 of the Constitution affords members of the Assembly freedom of speech, and this freedom of speech is only qualified by the rules and orders which the Assembly imposes on itself. The rules relating to order in debate are aimed not at limiting freedom of speech, but guiding debate in order to allow reasoned and open consideration of issues in a multi-party democracy. The rules governing unparliamentary language are broadly framed to allow as much freedom of speech as possible. However, remarks that impair a member's dignity or affront a member's personal honor must place a limit on such freedom of speech. These remarks, although made generally, reflect on the integrity of the members of this House and are therefore unparliamentary. Unfortunately, Mr. Mkletama, Honorable Mkletama, is not in the House now. If he were in the House, he would have been asked to withdraw the remarks. However, since he disregarded the authority of the chair earlier and was requested to leave the chamber, he is not available to withdraw. I therefore regard this matter closed, having ruled as such. I would nevertheless like to urge all members to exercise circumspection in the way they address one another, in order that we maintain a high level of discourse in this chamber and do not resort to name-calling which does not add to the debate. There's also a point of order that was raised during this debate where Mr. Groenewald was making a point of order on the statement that was made by Honorable Mnguni. Honorable Mnguni quoted a poem by Mzwakhe Mbuli. And in reflecting on that statement, the view of the chairperson in consultation with the head table is that there is nothing unparliamentary. It is the quotation of a poem by Mzwakhe Mbuli, and it's a matter of interpretation. And I don't think the chair can rule on the correctness or otherwise of the interpretation of any member of a statement that has been made. I therefore don't think that was a matter that needed to be ruled on in order as unparliamentary. Honorable members, this brings us to the end of this debate of this House. I want to remind members that at 2 o'clock we have in this House the debate on the presidency, which will take place at 14 hours. That concludes the debate and the business of this extended public committee.